All right, so I wanted to do a quick review of what we're going to be doing in class this week. I want to start out by talking about our unit circle. So remember from 2 weeks ago, the cosine is your x value, your y value is your sine theta. So sine of theta is equal to y, and cosine of theta is equal to x. What you should see pretty actually clearly here in the middle is you should see let me use straight up black. You can see a right triangle right here, right? So if I were to take this and like draw it out, right, here's our right triangle. So I know that if this is my angle that I'm talking about, here's my sine of theta, and here's my cosine of theta. I know that in my unit circle, our hypotenuse, our radius is always equal to 1. So I can think of this Pythagorean theorem. I can apply it to the Pythagorean theorem, and I can get cosine of theta squared plus sine of theta squared is equal to, our hypotenuse is 1, so I get 1 squared, which is a straight up 1. So cosine squared plus sine squared is equal to 1. Here's our little formula that we can go ahead and use. Or you could say like x squared plus y squared is equal to 1 is also a formula because x is cos, sine is y. All right. So now when you get to a question that looks like this, we have sine of theta is equal to 6 over 10. So I have sine of theta is equal to 6 over 10. So in SOHCAHTOA, some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid, right? In SOH, our opposite is on top. So our OPP in this case happens to be 6. And in sine, the hypotenuse, the H, I'll do this in green, is 10. So our hypotenuse is 10. So we're going to use this information to label our triangle. So here is our right triangle. Here's where our theta is. So I'm going to look opposite. I'm going to look opposite my theta, and that's going to be 6 because our OPP is 6. And our hypotenuse is always our largest side. So it's going to be the one that's opposite the right angle right here. So this is going to be 10. So I want to figure out what this adjacent side is going to be. I'll go ahead and do that in blue. Our adjacent side is going to be in blue. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use that theorem that we just learned. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared, which is our Pythagorean theorem. Hypothesis theorem. All right. Our Pythagorean theorem. And now all we're going to do is plug numbers in. So our a is straight up a. We don't know what that is, so I'm going to do a squared. Then we do plus b is 6 in this case. So I'm going to do plus 6 squared is equal to, I'm going to put the equal sign, and then my c is my longest side, which is in this case is 10. So I'm going to do 10 squared. 6 squared is 36. Oops. Let's keep consistent, right? 6 squared is 36. 10 squared is 100. So I'm going to bring everything else just down. So I have a squared plus 36 is equal to 100. I want to get this a squared by itself. So I do that by subtracting 36 from both sides. So minus 36 from both sides. This cancels out, and I'm left with a squared is equal to 100 minus 36. Pull out my handy dandy calculator. 100 minus 36 is equal to 64. So a squared equals 64. To get rid of the square, I'm going to square root both sides, square root, and a is equal to 8. So this is equal to 8. So now we're in a shape, in a position to answer our question. So I'm looking for the cosine of theta. So cosine equals adjacent, which in this case, our a is equal to 8, and our hypotenuse is equal to 10. So I'm going to go 8 over 10, And that is my final answer. I could reduce into 4 over 5. Either answer works. So cosine of theta is equal to 4 over 5 or 8 over 10. All right, I'm going to do a couple more problems for you. So cosine of theta is equal to 5 over 13. So first thing I want to do is SOHCAHTOA. So I'm going to put adjacent over hypotenuse. Here's my angle. So my adjacent side is going to be the one that's in this case on the bottom. So I'm going to put a 5 there. My hypotenuse is 13. So I'm going to go here to 13. There's my hypotenuse, and I'm looking for this side right here. I'm looking for my B. If it's unclear how I set that up, I'll go ahead and just like color code. So cosine is adjacent. Oh, that's not good. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So change my color to blue. Right? So I would know that my adjacent is 5. So remember, this is the opposite. This is adjacent. So there's my A. My B, I don't know. And my C in this case, or my hypotenuse, is equal to 13. All right. So now what I'm going to do is write down my formula. So A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. I have enough to plug in. So my A is 5. So I'm going to put 5 squared plus. My B, I don't know. So I'm going to leave it as B squared is equal to my C is 13. So I'm going to put 13 squared. Now I'm just going to go ahead and simplify. So 5 squared is equal to 25 plus B squared is equal to 169. I'm going to subtract 25 from both sides. This is my algebra part, right? So I'm going to get B squared is equal to 144. Square root both sides. And I get B is equal to 12. B equals 12. And now I have enough to answer my question. So sine of theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So I'm going to go sine of theta is equal to opposite. So my opposite side is B. So I'm going to put 12 on the top. And my hypotenuse is 13. So I'm going to put my 13 on the bottom. So my answer is 12 over 13. Okay, I'm going to do one more for you just to make sure that we're good. So sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So first thing we want to do is we want to label. So I'm going to go to my theta. There's my theta. That's a long angle. Let's cut that out. So I'm going to go opposite, and I'm going to put an 8 because my 8 is on the top. My hypotenuse is my longest side, so I'm going to put a 17 there. I'm going to call this side A just to be consistent. So I'm looking for A. So when I find cosine, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So my hypotenuse is 17. Now all I do is I got to find out what my A is right there. And to do that, I'm going to use my Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I don't know what my A is, so I'm going to leave it alone. My B squared is 8. So I'm going to do 8 squared equals. My C is 17. So I do 17 squared. This is 64. 17 times 17 off the top of my dome. I don't know what it is, so I'll put it in. It's 289. So I have A squared plus 64 equals 289. Subtract 64 from both sides, minus 64. This cancels out, so I'm left with A squared equals 225. Square root both sides, and I get A is equal to 15. Good. So A equals 15. So I put 15 on the top because that is my adjacent side. So cosine of theta is equal to 15 over 17. Done. So thank you guys. I love you. I will see you in class next week or next class.